Where can you win $1 million?
Tell me, Becky, when did you know for sure that you'd actually won millions of dollars from America?
For decades, Ed McMahon was one of the most familiar faces on American television. He stood beside Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show, greeting viewers with his booming voice and warm laughter. Millions knew him as the man who gave away life-changing checks through sweepstakes commercials and as the smiling co-host of Star Search, where future stars like Beyoncé and Justin Timberlake first appeared. McMahon represented success, charm, and generosity, a man who seemed to live a dream life filled with fame, wealth, and comfort. But behind that bright television image was a story no one expected. The man who handed out millions to others was secretly struggling with money himself. As years went by, his personal finances began to fall apart, and his glamorous life turned into a financial nightmare. When America saw him on screen, he was a symbol of luck. But when the cameras stopped rolling, McMahon was drowning in debt, lawsuits, and misfortune. His fall from wealth to bankruptcy shocked fans who had once admired his endless energy and joyful spirit. How did one of television's richest and most beloved figures end up losing everything he had worked for? Ed McMahon's story began far from Hollywood. He was born on March 6, 1923, in Detroit, Michigan, during one of the toughest times in American history. His father worked with carnivals and traveling shows, which meant the family was always moving from place to place, chasing the next opportunity. By the age of 5, Ed had already lived in more than 40 different towns. There were times when his family had no money for rent or food, and they often shared one bed to stay warm at night. Despite those struggles, Ed never lost his determination. At 10 years old, he started shining shoes and selling newspapers to help his parents. He dreamed of having a better life, one that wasn't controlled by poverty. When he won a small speaking contest at 15, earning just $5, he used the money to buy his first real suit. That small victory gave him confidence and made him realize he had a special voice. A voice that could one day lead him out of hardship. He practiced with a homemade microphone made from a tin can and listened to radio announcers copying their tone and rhythm. Even though life was unstable, those early struggles taught him discipline and gave him the strong work ethic that would later define his career. When World War II began, Ed joined the U.S. Marine Corps at the age of 20. He quickly became known for his focus and leadership, earning his wings as a fighter pilot in 1944. He trained others to fly dangerous planes like the F-4U Corsair, which many rookies couldn't handle. Although he never saw combat in World War II, his skill and courage helped prepare other pilots for battle. He continued to serve during the Korean War, flying 85 combat missions and earning 6 air medals. His time in the military taught him discipline, patience, and how to perform under pressure, skills that would later help him in show business. Between missions, Ed found ways to entertain his fellow Marines by hosting mock radio shows on base. He used humor, his booming voice, and a friendly attitude to lift the spirits of soldiers far from home. Those small shows were the first hint of his future career as a broadcaster. After returning home, he used the GI Bill to study speech and drama at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. He acted in plays, practiced public speaking, and started dreaming of a career in radio and television. For the first time, his passion for performance was becoming more than just a dream. It was becoming his life's purpose. Ed's first real job in television came in 1949 at WCAU-TV in Philadelphia, where he earned just $75 a week. He appeared on a children's program called Big Top, where he played Ed the Clown, juggling live acts, managing chaos, and improvising whenever things went wrong. The experience taught him quick thinking and how to stay calm in unpredictable live shows. His big break came in 1958 when he teamed up with Johnny Carson on the game show Who Do You Trust? The two developed instant chemistry, with Ed's friendly humor perfectly balancing Carson's wit. When Carson was chosen to host The Tonight Show in 1962, Ed came with him as his announcer and co-host. That's when television history changed forever. His famous introduction, "Here's Johnny," became one of the most iconic phrases in entertainment. It was shouted in living rooms across America and even echoed in Hollywood movies like The Shining. For 30 years, Ed and Johnny created magic together, with Ed acting as the perfect sidekick, laughing, reacting, and keeping the energy alive. He never tried to outshine Johnny but always supported him, becoming the best-known second man in TV history. His voice and laugh became symbols of comfort and familiarity for millions of viewers every night. By the 1970s and 1980s, Ed McMahon was everywhere. He hosted the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, co-starred with Dick Clark in TV's Bloopers and Practical Jokes, and introduced hundreds of future stars on Star Search. He also appeared in countless commercials, especially for Budweiser beer, where his confident, deep voice became instantly recognizable. Financially, it seemed like he could never fail. He earned millions each year and lived in a luxurious Beverly Hills mansion. His image as the man who brought fortune into other people's lives grew even stronger when he became the face of American Family Publishers, where he appeared in commercials handing out giant prize checks to everyday Americans. Ironically, that would later become one of the biggest misunderstandings in his career. People still confuse him with the rival company Publishers Clearinghouse, even though he never worked for them. Ed's public image was all about luck, laughter, and generosity. But behind that joyful smile, problems were beginning to form. His investments were risky, his spending habits were big, and legal troubles from his endorsement deals started to pile up. The man who once seemed untouchable was unknowingly building a financial house of cards. As the years passed, Ed's fame slowly faded, but his bills did not. By the 2000s, his health was declining, and his ability to work had been reduced by injuries. In 2007, he fell at a friend's house and broke his neck in multiple places, which left him unable to work for months. Medical bills started to stack up, and soon he was behind on payments for his $6.5 million Beverly Hills home. The man who once gave away million-dollar checks was now facing foreclosure. Credit card companies sued him for unpaid debts totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Reports showed that he owed money to Citibank, American Express, and even a divorce lawyer he had hired for his daughter's case. Every lawsuit revealed another layer of financial disaster. In interviews, McMahon spoke honestly about his mistakes. "If you spend more than you make, you know what happens," he said during one of his final television appearances. He had once won a $7.2 million lawsuit over toxic mold in his home, but after paying lawyers, taxes, and repairs, little of it was left. His situation became public when it was revealed that even Donald Trump had offered, but later failed, to buy McMahon's house to save him from eviction. It was a heartbreaking image, one of the most famous TV figures of the 20th century losing everything he had. On June 23, 2009, Ed McMahon passed away at the age of 86. He had been battling pneumonia, bone cancer, and financial troubles all at once. At the time of his death, he was nearly $2 million in debt. His family had to sell personal items, including his marine medals, just to pay creditors. His widow and children were left with almost nothing, a painful ending for a man who had once symbolized success and generosity. Yet, despite his tragic final years, Ed McMahon's legacy remains powerful. He helped shape television history, discovered future superstars, and brought laughter into millions of homes for over 4 decades. His journey from poverty to stardom and then back to hardship reminds us how fragile fame can be and how quickly fortune can fade. McMahon's story is not just about money or fame. It's about perseverance, kindness, and the human cost of a life lived in the public eye. He gave everything he had to his career, to his country, and to his audience. Even though he died with little to his name, the echo of "Here's Johnny" still lives on, a lasting tribute to a man who made America smile, even when he no longer could. When audiences saw Ed McMahon's smiling face on TV, they saw only confidence and success. But away from the spotlight, he was a man constantly balancing work pressure, personal responsibilities, and emotional struggles. McMahon was married 3 times, and each marriage brought both joy and pain. His first wife, Alice Farrell, stood by him during his early years when money was tight. They had 3 children together and faced all the hardships of a young family trying to make it in show business. However, as his fame grew, so did the distance between them. His long work hours and frequent travel took a toll on his marriage, and after 18 years, they divorced. His second marriage to Victoria Valentine, a flight attendant, also ended after a decade. By the time he married his third wife, Pamela, Ed was already struggling with finances and health. Despite their differences, Pamela stayed with him through his darkest moments, helping him handle legal battles and medical crises. McMahon's personal life showed that even people who appear happy on screen can be silently fighting their own battles. He once said, "When you're on TV every night, everyone thinks you're the luckiest guy alive. But fame doesn't fix everything. Sometimes it hides the cracks." Those words perfectly reflected the reality of his life. A man known for laughter, but carrying heavy burdens few ever saw. During his years of fame, Ed McMahon earned more than enough to live comfortably for several lifetimes, yet he spent money as if it would never stop coming. Like many celebrities of his era, he believed the success would last forever. He owned luxury cars, expensive watches, and a mansion that covered over 7,000 square feet. He loved throwing grand parties, often inviting Hollywood stars, producers, and friends from his Marine days. His generosity was famous. He helped colleagues pay rent, supported military charities, and gave money to struggling actors. But he rarely said no to a new purchase. He admitted later that he had no real understanding of long-term financial planning. For years, his advisors managed his accounts, but he barely paid attention to where his money went. Investments in restaurants, film projects, and real estate deals turned into massive losses. Even when his income dropped after leaving The Tonight Show, his spending didn't slow down. "I thought the checks would always come in," he once said. "When they stopped, I realized I was still living like I was on TV every night." His situation wasn't unusual. Many stars from the golden age of television found themselves in similar positions after fame faded. But for Ed, the irony was painful. The man who had become the symbol of financial fortune for millions was now broke. By the mid-2000s, Ed McMahon's financial problems were not just personal, they were public. News outlets ran stories about his foreclosure and debts, often with cruel headlines. Some accused him of mismanaging his money. Others mocked the situation. For McMahon, the hardest part wasn't losing the house. It was losing his dignity. He had built his career on being a proud Marine, a hard worker, and a symbol of optimism. Admitting that he was broke felt humiliating. Still, he faced it with courage. He began appearing on television again, not to entertain, but to raise awareness about financial literacy and the challenges of aging in Hollywood. He spoke honestly about the risks of fame and overspending. "No one teaches you how to handle success," he said in one interview. "You're so busy living the dream that you forget it can end." Even as his health declined, he kept working, doing voiceovers, commercials, and guest appearances. He refused to see himself as a victim. His pride as a Marine kept him strong. Those who visited him during his last years said he was still full of humor, often joking about his situation. When one friend asked how he was feeling, McMahon smiled and replied, "Still looking for that $1 million check." It was his way of staying positive even when everything seemed lost. Behind the financial troubles, Ed was also fighting another battle, one against his own body. Years of hard work, late nights, and constant travel had taken their toll. He suffered from diabetes, hearing loss, and several injuries caused by accidents. The neck fracture in 2007 was a turning point. It left him in constant pain and made even simple tasks difficult. His recovery required multiple surgeries and long hospital stays, during which he accumulated enormous medical bills. He also developed pneumonia and other complications that weakened him further. But even during recovery, he remained active in charity work for veterans and children. He attended fundraisers and gave motivational speeches whenever possible. Friends say he was determined to go out fighting. Yet despite his strength, the system around him seemed to fail. He struggled with insurance paperwork and hospital costs that few could manage. His story became an example of how even famous Americans could fall through financial cracks once medical problems hit. In his final interviews, he warned others about underestimating healthcare costs. "One accident," he said, "and your whole life can change." Those words became hauntingly true for him. But through it all, Ed never lost his sense of gratitude. "I've had the best life anyone could ask for," he said. "If I could do it again, I'd still